Police tell us to stop running red lights. Fine, we'll just extend how long it stays green. I live in a subdivision connected to a major road. The road out of the subdivision has a traffic light. In the morning, nearly everybody needs to turn left for work. Even if you want to turn right, you are simply stuck because there isn't enough room for more than one car. To compound the problem, the traffic light is green for no more than 5 seconds. We may get 4 to 5 cars out legally, then you have to wait another 3 to 4 minutes before the light switches. As you can imagine, this causes people to run the light, swerve around somebody they thought should have gone, etc. It's a grab bag of idiots in cars, myself included. If you roll up to the light and see that you are 15 cars back, you know you've just added 10 minutes to your commute simply trying to get out of your subdivision. Well, because of all of our reckless driving behavior, the police communicated via our HOA that we needed to knock it off. They had a police car parked near our area every morning for a week to keep us on our best behavior. Our board tried to work with the city to lengthen the light, but to no avail. That's when a hero emerged. We get a random email to the HOA distribution list from an anonymous person. They laid out our plan for malicious compliance. There is a pedestrian crosswalk light at the before-mentioned intersection that basically goes unused. In my 10 years living there, I've never seen it used. There just simply isn't any pedestrian traffic. The subdivision hero devised a plan on how to use this crosswalk to our advantage. Basically, one person in their car simply needs to walk over and hit the push button to cross and run back to their car. When to light switches, we now get 30 ish seconds to alleviate our traffic jam. Everybody is joining in, and it's hilarious. My oldest daughter got to do it the other day, and other cars in the line were rolling down their windows and cheering her on. It's possibly the best neighborhood bonding experience possible. I'm sure our longer lights are screwing up something further down the line, but none of us really care. We're now on our best behavior since we have about 5 times longer to get through the light.
Now to the comments. This project was greenlighted by malicious compliance, in my best broadcaster voice of course.
And that voice is Troy McClure.
Hi. I'm Troy McClure. You might remember me from informational videos such as HOAs, the latest form of fascism, and HOAs. You didn't read the fine print? That's okay, well, pay for the disemboweling. For once, a malicious compliance that isn't against the HOA. This is beautiful on so many levels.
Occasionally HOAs get run by people who just want to keep their neighborhood nice, but those don't usually make for stories worth reading online, which is why you only hear about the nightmare, power-tripping HOAs on Reddit.
OP replied. I think that's we have for the most part. It's typically retired folks that enjoy pouring themselves into something. We have some dumb rules, but great overall. I used to do the same thing in Whistler. To get onto the main highway, pressing the pedestrian button instantly started the sequence to change the lights. Just roll up, get out, press button, and by the time you put the seat belt back on, green. Was great. Being a highway that went through Whistler, local council were not in charge of the timing and control.
OP replied. That's awesome. I feel like we've exploited some system.
I did the same coming out of my subdivision as a child, and your story about your daughter just reminded me. We used it so that the light would change. Otherwise we'd be stuck there because the sensors didn't work on our side for some unknown reason, and the light doesn't trigger unless activated. Nobody took that exit because of the design flaw. I was driving in the neighborhood a few years ago, and they repaved the road, replaced the lights, and it finally worked. But the late 80s and early 90s were fun. Smiley face. I'll never forget the 13-second dash to get my seat belt on. LPT for any motorcyclists, this is how you get the light to change for you. I've been doing this for a decade and I learned it from a bicyclist.
I do this on occasion. But I know which lights will and will not change for me where I live, so I just plan my route accordingly.
Welcome to Nashville, where the municipalities jack up property taxes to kill farms, leave no blade of grass upright, cram chintzy houses onto every square inch and neglect to upgrade their roads. Enjoy your 3-hour round-trip commute, guys.
Cram chintzy houses onto every square inch. That's what I find funny. I'm living downtown right now, in my city, not Nashville, and looking to move for more space, both in the house and outside, so I'm paying a bit more attention to houses now. It's just funny that you'll see these places with tiny yards, each one right in its neighbor's shadow, as cramped as I am in my urban neighborhood, but near nothing and surrounded by empty open fields outside the actual development. It's like the worst of both worlds. Living on top of your neighbors and having to drive to go to anything.
This wouldn't be an issue if developers built subdivisions with multiple exits, but duck proper planning.
Subdivisions with only one exit don't get through traffic, so their planning is working exactly how they prefer it.
Which is also an issue. Interconnected road networks would help to distribute traffic, cutting down on everyone's commute. Instead, we have subdivisions which think their 50 cars for 15 minutes constitutes a significant amount of traffic. Project Greenlight.
We do not talk about Project Greenlight.
Why not? We used to do something similar. Lived off a main road that was always busy, fast-moving traffic, and nobody would let you pull out. A few times I hopped out of the car for my dad and slapped the pedestrian button on the crossing up the road to give us a gap.
Same here. When I moved into the house in question, there was a pedestrian crossing right outside. The road was a main road with cars traveling at high speed, so sometimes a pedestrian would cross. The first car would see the pedestrian and stop, but the second car wouldn't realize the car in front had stopped and drive right up the first car's clacker at full speed. We got so used to the screech, crunch, crash, tinkle, tinkle that we just stopped going out to see what had happened. Only one time, one car stopped, but the next car was in the lane over and couldn't see the pedestrian, so when the pedestrian appeared from in front of the stopped car, the second car just collected them on the way past. So we got a traffic light controlled pedestrian crossing that crossed over our driveway. In heavy traffic, which was frequent, we could set off the traffic lights and take advantage of the gap. Anyway, if you see a car stopped at a pedestrian crossing, don't just drive past in another lane. Vehicular manslaughter is a sucky way to screw your life up.
On the flip side, if you see a pedestrian waiting to cross not at a crosswalk, do not stop to let them go. A friend and I nearly killed 2 children this way. We were driving through a 4-lane intersection, 2 lanes each way, and there was a huge line of cars in the right lane. We were in the left lane doing 40. About 50 feet past the traffic light, read, crosswalk, 2 kids ran out from in front of the car that stopped in the right lane. They turned to see us and stopped dead in their tracks like ducking deer in headlights. All parties involved started screaming and my buddy slammed on his brakes, but there very obviously wasn't enough time to stop. One kid jumped right and the other jumped left but didn't clear the lane. There was just enough space for my friend to swerve between them, missing both by mere inches. We wound up in the right lane as he corrected the swerve and continued screaming, both of us in shock, for like a full minute before he turned down a side street and pulled over. The whole thing felt like it occurred in slow motion and it was terrifying. I didn't stop shaking for like 20 minutes. I was so livid at the car that stopped to let them cross. Honestly, had we wound up hitting the kids, I would 100% be fighting to put all the blame on the ducking jackass that decided, well, there's a crosswalk not 50 feet away from them, but I'll just stop to let these kids cross here, where no one in the other lane can see what's happening. Never stop to let pedestrians cross while not at a crosswalk. You might see them standing there, but that doesn't mean everybody else does too. My friend got 3 tickets for this. We were out riding and came to a red light. A lot of times motorcycles don't register to automated light systems. I don't know if it's not enough weight, or not big enough, but on a bike you can sit at a light for what seems like hours and the second a car pulls up the light changes. Anyway, we are sitting at this light forever and he hops off of his motorcycle, walks over and presses the crosswalk button and gets back on his bike. Cop saw it all, pulled us over. He got a ticket for parking in street, leaving running motor vehicle unattended, and misuse of pedestrian crossing device, or something equally stupid. Judge dropped them all, but he still had to show up in court.
Sounds like the textbook definition of you technically broke the law, but did you really?
Side note, this is why you should never move into a neighborhood that only has one exit.
I feel like The Last of Us was set exclusively in these neighborhoods.